Good morning. Sorry to hold y'all here on a Friday, a cold, rainy Friday morning. But we are here to do the business of the state for the people of Mississippi. So at this time, we will start our corrections here. And I would need a motion to remove the table, Senate Bill 2353, so that we can take this bill up this morning. We have a motion. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes carry. Thank you. Now we're back on Senate Bill 2353 on the proposed committee substitute. But before I go into the discussion, go into the bill, there were several questions that was asked at the last committee meeting, and I've tried to get answers to those questions as I had promised the members of this committee that I would do. And I think I had a list of 7 questions, and maybe more, but the 7 questions that I can remember, the questions were, what is the distance? One of the first questions was, what is the distance between Tutwiler and Parchman? And according to Google Maps that we all rely on, that distance was about 10 minutes or 7.9 miles. Second question we had was, does Tutwiler have similar issues to Parchman regarding violence, and have those issues been resolved? And the answer to that is yes, and those issues have been resolved. They are fully ACA accredited, have passed all of their inspections, so the facility is way above board on that. Third question was, do you have contracts or MOU between Tallahatchie County facility and MDOC? The question to that answer is, we do not have anything in writing today, but we do have a number to report to you all. And this number is not one that is set in stone, but this is a number that was given to us by CoreCivic, and that number was to lease the facility, and the state would run the facility, would cost the state of Mississippi around $14 million per year, and that is to include the maintenance and the upkeep of the facility, which is considerably less than what we are currently spending on the facility that we have at Parchman right now. Fifth question is, are the facilities that will remain open at Parchman up to date, and what are the costs to maintain those facilities? I have tried, and others have tried, to get a number from MDOC, and we have failed to get that number from them in regards to that question. But nevertheless, I will, as this bill continues to move forward, I will make sure that that's one that we can get an answer to. The sixth question was, how many people are employed at Tutwiler? That number is, there are currently 240 people that are employed at Tutwiler, with a maximum capacity that they can hold is around 300. The other question related to that was, how many people are employed at Parchman? There are currently 365 employees at Parchman with 248 vacancies at the facility at Parchman. And with those numbers, we know that that's not a good ratio with the number of people that are there to properly manage the amount of people. The last question that I had was, what is the pay difference between the two, and that being Tutwiler and the facility at Parchman? And based upon the information that I've given, both of them are currently around the $19 an hour starting pay for both of those facilities. So there's really not a big difference in pay. I think the advantage is that those who are employed at Parchman, the advantage that they have is that they are state employees and receiving state benefits along with health care and or retirement benefits that all state employees are afforded. Those are the questions that I have in regards to those that was asked at the last meeting. But I would like to say also is that in front of you, you would see a report from the Mississippi Department of health. And this report was done in October of 2023. So we talking not too many months ago. And I do know that some would say, or some are saying that the conditions have really gotten a lot better. Well, if you see that report, we still have failures that are there. And they're saying that the latest deal, the Department of Justice report that we had is not really an accurate report. But I beg to differ based on the information that you have in front of you. And the information that was placed in front of you today is so that you can see it for yourself, exactly what we're facing. And if you also looked at the latest Department of Justice report, it's not a good report for the state of Mississippi. So, and I would just like to say, as we move this process along, I think we can show the Department of Justice and others that this bill is not something that was written in response to their report, but this bill was written in response to what we have noticed have been a systematic problem across the state of Mississippi in regards to our prison facilities. And we want to make sure that we do the best that we can so that we're not forced to do what Alabama is doing. I'm not saying that this bill that we have is a save-all, but I think it does let them know that we have heard from them and we understand that we need to do something so that we can fix the problems that are waiting on us. And just 10, 15 minutes ago on the Senate floor, there was some discussion. There was a bill that we had in front of us that was presented by Appropriations Chairman Briggs Hobson. And certainly the amount wasn't a tremendous amount. But I think whenever we spend more than $1 of taxpayers' money on Mississippi to handle lawsuits, one is specific to our Department of Correction in regards to just the legal to handle that. We're spending too much of our taxpayers' money on things that we should have fixed in the legislative body, things that we should have addressed over the years. And with this latest the latest Department of Justice report, I'm hoping that that number doesn't get any bigger, but I can't see it not growing if we don't take steps or measures to fix the problems that we have. And I am open at this time for any questions by any members of the committee in regards to the phase down bill that's in front of us in regards to our facility from Parchman to Tutwiler. If there's any members that have any questions, I will recognize you by the raising of your hand. Senator Hill.
Thank you for gathering all this information. I'd just like to speak briefly, not really a question. And I'm not speaking against what you're trying to do. I just want to make a point about the DOJ report that came out yesterday. That was about Greene County. That was about Leakesville, if I read the report correctly. And my concern is we got the same problem at Leakesville that we have at Parchman, that we have everywhere else, okay? My big concern is moving these inmates 7 miles up the road is not going to solve this problem. Our problem is staff. Our problem is that the people inside are running the place and tearing the places up. And until we get that solved, I don't know that the best thing for us to do is to just move them out of one facility that they've torn up into another facility for them to tear up if we don't have the staff and we're not willing to spend the money to get the staff to keep it under control. I don't see how just moving them up somewhere else is going to change the culture and stop what's going on in Parchman, what's going on in Greene County, because we don't have enough employees. We said the other day we don't have the pool of employees, and I think until this body stops quibbling over spending tax money on spending enough money to get control of these facilities where they won't tear them to pieces and won't have gangs fighting and assaulting people, I just think we're spinning our wheels. I know that you may think that this is going to solve problems with the DOJ, but when we got the same problem in Greene County, I don't know that this is a solution I understand Parchman's in bad shape, gonna take a lot of money to fix it up, but I think the core problem with employment has to be addressed or should be addressed before we even consider buying or leasing another facility and moving them. That might not be Pierre's opinion, but from all the things that I can see going on in the prison system, I don't think this is gonna solve the core problem. It might be a step, but I do appreciate your concern, and I agree with you that if we don't get control of what's going on inside of it, the problem's not gonna be solved.
Thank you, Senator Hill, for your statement. And just to speak on your statement, Senator Hill, I agree with you 100%. But one reason why the facilities are like they are is because traditionally over the years, we haven't put the monies into making sure that we have a secure facility that'll allow for some of the things to happen. And when we talk about those individuals who are employed there, I even said it when I presented this bill on Tuesday, is that another one of my concerns was to make sure that the staff who are working at these places are going to a place where there are safety mechanisms in place so that this could be addressed. And also during the 2019-2020 riots, we transferred about 1,000 inmates from Parchman to Tutwiler, where we didn't have any problems. And the reason is because of all of the safety things that are already in place that can prevent some of those things that were happening. And again, I know that this bill is not the fix-all, but we have to start somewhere. And yesterday, in my opinion, it's too late to start working on, even yesterday was too late. And tomorrow will definitely be too late if we don't start to work on and to try and fix some of the problems that we have within our prison systems. And if you look at that DOJ report, it still referenced Parchman in his 2022 report. If you go back and look at the report, we really haven't seen a tremendous increase in things that have really changed here. So this report again that came out, again, you're correct. It's not a report on Parchman, but it lets us know that in addition to Parchman, what else we're faced with, and how long are we going to sit and say, or think about how we're going to fix these things versus taking some type of proactive measure today so that we want our taxpayers in Mississippi to not have to spend more than they should be spending because we are not doing the job that we should be doing in trying to take proactive measures in correcting some of the issues that we have. Are there any other questions by any of the members of this committee?
I have one more.
Senator Hill.
I see in here that there's a name change. It'll no longer be called Parchman. Where is that coming from?
That name, Senator Hill, was, and I've talked to several members of the Delta delegation in regards to this. And Senator Hill, the reason why we're changing this from Parchman is because Parchman has historically had a bad name for the state of Mississippi. And we have moved to try and change some of those things associated with the state of Mississippi that hasn't been good. And we would like for the Delta not to just be remembered as the place that had one of the most notorious prisons in the country, but for those people of the Delta to have some things that are good in name for them. And so we decided we have a central, we have a southern, so why not have a northern correctional facility in the state of Mississippi? That's why the name changes like it is. Any other questions from any members of the committee? Before I ask for a vote, there was in front of you a amendment, but we will not offer that amendment at this time. So if there's no other questions from anyone on this committee, then I ask for a motion. Motion is time sufficient, do pass committee sub. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye. All opposed? The ayes carry. Thank you. Next, we have Senator Younger, who is here to present with us. And I may skip around what's on the agenda before us today to present to us Senate Bill 2451.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In October, Pierre met and we were looking at MDOC's budgeting process. And one of the components of the corrections budgeting typically includes a model to project what the inmate growth will be. Peer found that MDOC does not have a solid inmate population growth model that it uses. MDOC claims that it doesn't use its own model because it produces inaccurate projections of inmate growth. So MDOC's population model shows an estimation of 24,361 inmates for 2023, but MDOC states that it currently has a bed capacity of 21,991. MDOC they have not made any efforts to update or improve their model, and it's really critical so we can go by on the planning of the budget. And 2451 should help make them clean it up some and give us something to go by. And it would require the commissioner to develop a solid growth model to forecast the state's inmate population. The model must produce a 10-year forecast, a monthly review process, and MDOC must consult with other states that use more accurate models, such as Arkansas. It just pretty much, we want more accountability. That's what the sum of it is.
Thank you, Senator Younger. Are there any questions to Senator Younger in regard to Senate Bill 2451? If there's no questions, I move for motion. Motion is title sufficient due pass, committee sub. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, ayes carried. Thank you, Senator Younger. We'll go down to Senate Bill 2599, and we'll ask Senator Sparks to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 2599 brings forth code sections, particularly the non-adjudication code section and other code sections for language that we're trying to come together for an alternative incarceration opportunity like we used to have with the RID program. There's a gap kind of in the opportunities to sentence. We have pretrial diversion, we have a non-adjudication, or we have an incarceration. The RID program used to be the only incarceration sentence that could be non-adjudicated, and I've had district attorneys, sheriffs, attorneys, and judges who would like to have some form of that program back, and that's what we're working to do through this legislation. But at this time, it is the code sections being brought forward.
Thank you, Senator Sparks. Is there any questions to Senator Sparks in regards to Senate Bill 2599? If not, recognize Senator Sparks for a motion.
Title sufficient, do pass.
Thank you. Motion is title sufficient, do pass. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, ayes carried. Thank you. The next bill we have in front of us is Senate Bill 2442, which is the Prisoner Paycheck Pipeline Pilot Program. And this bill right here it kind of works hand in hand with the pilot program that we started before with just the CMCF, where we had inmates who were not inmates, but individuals who were allowed to go out every day and earn a livable wage, where they would save part of their monies, use part of their monies to pay their fine fees restitution. Part of their monies went back to MDOC, and then another part went into their pockets for anything that they would need around the commissary. What this bill basically does is it allows a third party person to help with those people who we may miss. Basically, what we're just trying to do with this bill again is to make sure that when individuals leave the Department of Corrections, that we are having them placed in jobs and environments that will help reduce our recidivism rate. Right now, our recidivism rate is running somewhere 35, 45%. And if we'll look at, and that number may or may not be all the way accurate, but if we'll look at the numbers that most of y'all attended with the Joint House and Senate Corrections meeting, where we had those individuals who had been through the program that we started, there was only 2 individuals who had come back, who had went through this program. And so what this allows us is for private as well to help us to make sure that we continue to reduce those numbers by putting bills like this into place to make sure that that can happen, so that we'll see our numbers of people coming back to the system continue to go down. That's basically the explanation of the bill, and I'm open to any questions if there may be any from this committee. Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some years ago, I think I sat in on a committee meeting or a hearing talking about, I think, a Rankin County that had a pilot program such as this. Do you recall? But anyway, my question is, will this be open to, where all prisons can take advantage of?
This bill, right, there's another bill that addresses exactly what you were talking about, Senator Thomas, and we've already passed that bill out of corrections. And that bill did expand it to all of the regionals and all of the other state facilities. But this one right here is to make sure that we understand that there may be still some that we miss, even though it's going to be offered to all of the county regionals, to the regionals and the state. This bill is to make sure that we allow others to help us work on this, so that in those that we cannot or not in this program, we will get them in this particular program.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions by anybody else from the committee? If not, then we're gonna need a motion.
Chairman.
Thank you. It's been motion, time sufficient to pass. All in favor, let it be known by sign of aye.
Aye.
No opposed, the ayes carried. The next bill we have up is Senate Bill 2700. Senator Simmons is not here to present the bill, but we do have Mr. Gray, who is with us this morning from the County Board of Supervisors. And we would ask Mr. Gray, if you would, please approach the podium for an explanation of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the committee. The bill you have before you, Senate Bill 2700, is basically a repealer deletion. Back in 2010, we got a measure passed, House Bill 1111, that went into effect. It created a mandate that counties shall not be responsible for no more than the Medicaid reimbursement rate for pretrial detainees and state inmates that they house. Prior to this bill, what we found regarding counties throughout the state was, counties were being overbilled and they were being taken advantage of. With this particular bill that we got passed back then, it allowed locals to establish themselves in a way to mitigate those costs down and save counties money. We have in our records, and I can share that with you, over the years, we saved over $80 million throughout the state regarding the inmates that the counties house. And this bill is a way to delete the repealer. We keep getting it extended. It has shown its value. We don't want to lose the program. And so as an association, one of our priorities was to try to go ahead and just lock this into law and continue to save the state money and the county's money as it pertains to serving those inmates at the local county facility. That's the bill in a nutshell. I yield for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gray, for coming on such a short notice. But then thank you. Is there any questions to Mr. Gray by the members of this committee in regards to this bill? If not, I ask for a motion. Senator Sparks, hold on. Senator Sparks, you had a question?
I understand that we're just removing the repealer from these code sections. Is that, I was looking for a strike-through version. I don't see any words changed. Was that the explanation?
The intent was to delete the repealer, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sparks. Any other question by any members of the committee? If not, we ask for a motion. Motion is time sufficient to pass. All in favor, there be known by saying aye. All opposed? Motion. Thank you all. Have a safe weekend.